He's a piece of shit.
Do you got any pictures of the clown?
Do I have any pictures of him?
Yeah. Take a picture with the clown.
Oh, yeah. Let me think who else is out there. I got Heat. There's so many, there's probably 100 of them, but they're like 4 of the...
One more, round out your top 5.
Around my top 5. Wait, I'm looking at promoters and so we got Gina Moore, Casati, Jeff Miller. Oh, of course, I said him earlier. Ralph Soto. Ralph Soto's the biggest piece of shit. He thinks he's a star. He can't walk and chew gum. Don't know the old cliche, a wristwatch from a wrist lock. He's just the biggest piece of shit too. There's like the top 5 for now, you know.
How about your 5 worst enemies? Pretty much the same thing.
Well, 3 of them are in one promotion. Well, 2 of them. Joe Panzarino is harmless, but Gino Moore and Fred Rubenstein are on the top of my list. Trying to think who else. I got a lot of enemies. I'm just trying to think who some of them are. There's a zillion of them out there. You know, John Zandig. Heyman, I respect Heyman now. I mean, he don't have any problems anymore. For the time being, that's what I'm trying. I can't think of anybody else right off this. You know.
I guess around when you're promoting, also Dick Worley was doing some things.
Yeah, he cut his own fucking throat because he was refereeing for Vince McMahon, and when Crockett showed up in the area, they went on Good Morning America or something, or Good Morning Philadelphia, or some talk show on the air, and they had Ric Flair and guys from the NWA that were coming in trying to fuck with Vince McMahon, and sitting on the set with him right there, and it was Dick Worley. So he was done with the WWF from that point on. Well, he just tried fucking around with me a couple times, and he had this little shit upstart promotion. I ran him out of town. But I see him now, we talk and shit like that, but just, you know, you get a lot of enemies in this business, people you think are your friends, and then you want to have them to go to war with them, you know?
What led to you being kicked out of the NWA?
I'll tell you the truth, like I told everybody else, I owed him money and I never paid it. And there was a lot of different things why I didn't pay it. I got another rib for you to tell you about. This is one of the greatest ribs ever.
Is this where you bring Ogawa into the States?
Yeah, what had happened was, see, they took Dan Severn off my shows to bring him over to Japan to drop the belt to Ogawa. Now, I felt that they fucked my shows up and I should have been compensated for it. So, because Brody had a sneak deal going on with that fucking Crook Inoki and his gang, they took Severn from me and they never took care of me. So, they finally sent Ogawa in, and he wrestled in Pine Hill. That's another building I killed. They wrestled there, and well, after the match, my son Mark, who's probably the youngest, most brilliant mind in the wrestling business, not because he's my son, he just, as anybody, he knows more about the wrestling business. He's like a young Heyman, Cornette, Gilbert, locked into one. He had a lot of mentors over the years, like guys who were close to, he was actually close with guys like Terry Funk, and Terry Funk used to actually bought a house in Oakland. And he learned a lot about the business. And we're outside, he says, Dad, I got a great idea. I said, what's that? He says, see, before the match, we had Ogawa behind the building teaching him how to lock up and do a roll up and a 3 count, because he never knew any of this shit. So we were actually teaching him behind the building. So during the match, before the match, Doug Gilbert says, I'm going to get color on this fucking guy. Watch this. He says, so Doug Gilbert got color. And Ogawa actually thought that he was responsible for it and was virtually crying after the match. He felt so bad for Doug Gilbert he couldn't kiss his ass enough, you know? Well, Mark said, I got a great idea. He says, call Brody and let's start yelling at him and tell him that Ogawa didn't kick out on the 3 count and Doug was the new NWA World Champ. So I go to Brody on the phone. I said, Brody, you motherfucker, why don't you tell me this guy couldn't speak a lick of English and you know how to kick you out? I said, we got a new NWA World Champ. He goes, what? Hey, that can't happen. He goes, we need board of directors approval. I say, hey, the fucking guy didn't kick out, so he was supposed to go. So Doug gets on the phone and starts yelling at him, and Mark gets on the phone, and Mark's yelling at him, and I said, oh, and I go back and I said, hold on, Brody, something's happening. So Brody's calling back every minute when I answer the phone, he calls back. And I said, Brody, there's a big fucking fight going on. Well, I'll call you back. So next time he calls back, I had all the guys in the locker room pretending we're fighting, and and they, I just answered, I opened the phone and didn't say hello, and there's all this shit and racket going on. So Brody's getting the shits now, so he calls a minute later, I had this little kid pick up the phone, and he goes, who's this? And Brody goes, well, who's this? He says, I asked you first. He goes, tell me this. He goes, I ain't fucking telling you, who are you? He goes, this is Howard Brody, president of NWA. He goes, what are you doing with that phone? He goes, I don't know, he goes, I just picked it up off the ground during the fight. And Brody's like quizzing this little kid about the fucking fight. So Brody keeps calling back, we're not answering. Now he thinks Ogawa dropped the title to Doug. So what happened was, we had Mike DiMuzio call, I'll tell you how fucking stupid Brody is. We have Mike DiMuzio, he's one of the greatest guys in the fucking wrestling. I love Mike DiMuzio, he's the best. He's like, him and I don't know if you know Donnie Libel. You heard Donnie Libel? But if there's ever two ambassadors to wrestling, there should be Donnie Libel and Mike DiMuzio. Well, DiMuzio gets on the phone, he calls Brody and says he's Captain Mike DiMuzio from the Pine Hill Police Department. Now fucking Brody don't even connect the name. He's telling him that he better wire up bail because Ogawa busted up the fucking place and he ain't getting out of jail until the bail comes through. We pay for the damage. And Brody's having a fucking shit fit, and we left it at that. So Brody, like a fucking jerk off, calls Inoki in the middle of the night and resigns from the board of directors as president because he disgraced Inoki. Well, the next morning he gets on the computer service and he sees that it never happened. He was hot. That was like one of the greatest ribs we ever pulled off.
So basically, you have to pay money to bring in Ogawa.
Right.
That's some of the money that you owe the NWA.
Right.
So they then vote you out of the NWA.
Right, they did. It was all a big conspiracy between Brody and a guy that I thought was my friend, Fred Rubenstein. But the whole time Fred Rubenstein was acting like he was my best friend, and he was acting like an attorney, which he wasn't. He was conspiring with Brody and his cronies on the board of directors. They had Rick O'Brien put on the board of directors. It was a Rubenstein stooge. And they iced me out, and they would not give New Jersey to my son Mark, who legitimately should have had it. They turned around and gave the Rubenstein and Fat Fuck and Dapper Johnny Falco. And it's just, you know, these guys, I mean, it's just all one big incident events. My mom died. What do you think of a jerk-off that sends you a fax Christmas Eve telling you you're off the board of directors? Christmas Eve. And then New Year's Day tells you you're out of the NWA. And then my mom got buried the next day. They were all at the funeral and viewing, Panzerino and Moore and Rubenstein, and acting like they were my friends. And the day after my mom's funeral, they told me I was no longer involved with the company. And they just like, you know, they had a bunch of sponsors that were mine, they'd talk, and it just turned out to be a big fucking mess, which I'll never forget. And it's a big fucking joke, because if you talk to the big fucking fat fuck himself, he'll tell you, he comes off like he's got the CEO title. And what I'm saying is, if you imagine, like I don't know if I mentioned this before, you have a Fortune 500 company that sees that professional wrestling is real hot due to the success of the WWF, and they want to dabble in sports entertainment, and they had their board meeting and invite the CEO from the sports entertainment group. They get this big fucking 600-pound smelly fucking slob showing up with clown pants and a sweatshirt and a super Kalo gimmick, sitting in the boardroom with guys that get paid $1 million a year to the head of company. It's the biggest fucking joke in working wrestling. The fucking guy is nothing but my stooge. For years, Gina Moore done what got me my iced tea, which I'm famous for, and carried my bags and drove me around, and now he's acting like he's a big wrestling personality. And anybody that knows him, in my opinion, knows that he's nothing but a fucking liar and a bullshitter, and he's been nothing ever more than a sound man who fucks that up. I mean, a monkey couldn't fuck up DJ equipment, but this fucking fat bastard, he's got excuses for everything. If he fucks up, he'll come back, and you give him shit about it, he'll come back with a lie that the that the fucking, the ghost did it. It wasn't him, and, I mean, any fucking lie, it's just, you know, you can't believe a fucking word he says.
You have any more insight to like the falling out between you and the other three partners that you would?
Well, right now I'm laying low. I'm just gonna watch them crash land because they don't have talent or shit. They can't draw flies anymore. It's because I'm not involved with them. I mean, I ran the locker room and I put the matches together. Me, my son Mark, and Donnie B. Donnie B's a great fucking guy. He's one of me and my son's best friends. He's very creative. Comes up with some good stuff, and he's still with them. But I think what made it better was the three of us doing stuff together. And now that's not there. I mean, you know, I mean, look at the makeup. You have a guy that says he was a WWF wrestler. He was a job guy. I don't know how many matches he had. He said he went to Japan 56 times in July. Here's a guy that says he pinned Andre in the Tokyo Dome. And I pinned Hulk Hogan down in Gulf States. A guy don't know shit about the wrestling business, was never considered in the wrestling business. You got him, and then you got Mr. Rogers, Fred Rubenstein, who's not only a lousy referee, but don't know shit about the business. But him and Gina Moore got that special thing in common. They like to expose business. Like if you say, hey, I'm going over to see, hey, I'm going over to have a drink with Hulk Hogan. Oh, you and Terry Bollea. He's like, you know, they like
name drop
like Kathy. You know, they use. And it's my opinion now on her, but like they drop names and use the. You know, they can't say, well, I could tell Hulk Hogan, hey, or you know, ask him if you remember when I pinned him down Gulf States, you know, and you got two guys that are like biggest marks. One's a lousy referee and a big mark. The other one's just a big slob who constantly exposed the business to impress. He surrounds himself with retards and village idiots because he can't impress and bullshit the normal human being that's got any kind of intelligence. And about Dapper Johnny, one thing about Dapper Johnny, he's blatantly honest too. He won't lie to you. I mean, he'll skim the box office and steal from you and shit like that, but he won't lie to you. But, you know, it's just a real volatile mix. A real volatile mix.
What are your thoughts on the future of the NWA?
I think without me being in it, they're fucked. There's nobody that brought charisma or controversy to the organization like I did. You know that. Nobody did. I mean, nobody got anything going as Barons. Look at Howard Brody. He's about as exciting as a diarrhea in a fan, you know. And Inoki, well, he's got a thing going over there, but he don't know what the hell's going on. When you have $300 million, they should don't give a shit. And none of got anything going. I mean, really, this is, you know, it's a shame because they got some good members. They got Jim Miller, Ernie Todd, Dave Republic. They got some good members, but a majority of them are a bunch of dumb fuck nuts. That's what they are, you know. They couldn't promote pussy on a troop train.
One of the things we talked about, we never like got to that story before. The last Gilbert Memorial, the WWF, I guess, pulled out their talent.
That wasn't me.
Last minute.
Yeah, that there. What had happened was. That was a clusterfuck because Dapper Johnny was under the impression, see, when they tell us, yeah, we can have these guys, WWF would say, yes, they're available. And we were always on the assumption that if we advertised them, we would get them. Well, we started advertising a bunch of them, and the office found out about it and got pissed, and it was nothing different than what we'd done before. But we changed all our advertisement, and they were in the process of getting out of third-party wrestling because they were having problems with other promoters. I mean, they never had a problem with Blaine DeSantis or Jim Kentner or me and Panzerino. There was problems with other fucking promoters that, like, an example, there's a beautiful WWF ballet, I won't mention her name. She was supposed to do a third-party appearance, and she was promised that they would pick her up in a limo. Well, a guy shows up in a beat-up old station wagon with two of his buddies in the back seat. So they got, that didn't go well. And then this other guy had WWF's talent on the show, and during the match, this one guy whipped his dick out, and got back to the office because everybody thought it was a WWF show, and he gave the office a bunch of shit about it. So that's what killed it for guys that, you know, we had a good relationship with them. Me and Panzerino worked real well with them.
Even Doug Gilbert didn't make it to the last Gilbert Memorial, what was the
Yeah, I forget what happened with that, but I didn't get into it. Just, Doug and me's best friends. Matter of fact, he was on my machine when we took a break a little while ago. I love Doug Gilbert. He's just a great, I love Doug as much as I did Eddie. I'm becoming closer with Doug than I basically was with Eddie, and I have a great time with Doug. There's a few people in the business that are great fucking people, like Jim Kentner from Delaware and Blaine DeSantis, and I'm starting up again. I got my promoter in exile thing going. I'm dealing with a guy named Don Margiotto at Garden State Wrestling Alliance. He's a great guy. Cornette, and there's just a lot of people, that are real good in the business, that are good for the business, but, there's guys that fuck it up. I got a lot of young, up-and-coming stars. I'm all excited about guys like Billy Rio and Inferno Kid and Felipe and Ratchet, and, I'm using the Haas brothers, and, guys that are going to be stars like Low-Key, and there's just a lot of good young stars out there, and a lot of good people that are still left in the business, but, it just ain't the same, I'll be getting started back up again, and all these little neophyte assholes in Jersey, I'll be fucking with them like I did with ECW, so be prepared. I'm gonna put things under control in Jersey again. See, when I was running on a regular basis, you didn't have all these fucking idiots and goofs, they were scared of what I could do to them. Now that I'm not there, they're just like multiplying like fucking minks, you know what I mean?
I'll mention somebody's name, you give me, memory, thought, whatever. We'll start with probably the biggest name in the business, Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon, without a doubt, is the greatest mind in professional wrestling or sports entertainment ever. He is he's in a league by himself. He has done for professional wrestling what no one ever dreamed he would do. Like, everybody thought when Hulk Hogan left, no one could ever be as popular as Hulk Hogan. But look what he's doing with The Rock and Austin, and they're all way more popular than Hulk Hogan was or ever will be. So, his marketing, he's just unbelievable. He's a genius. I wish sometime I had the opportunity to sit down with him for a couple hours and just talk, because he's incredible.
Eric Bischoff.
Never met the guy.
Your thoughts on how he runs his business?
I don't think he has a fucking clue. He's more concerned about getting himself over than the guys that he's promoting. I don't think he has a clue anymore.
Chris Candido.
I've done more for Chris Candido than anybody ever in the wrestling business. I pushed him harder than anybody. Nobody wanted him. I used to tell Jim Cornette, we got this kid, Chris Candido, you gotta see him. He, without a doubt, was the most incredible wrestler I ever had. He was the best out of any of them. I had a lot of good guys come through my company, but there was no one ever as good as Chris Candido. Nobody. Matter of fact, he's probably one of the best in the business. Unfortunately, he's a little short, but and he's got his own demons, with her and whatever. But no one ever wanted to use Chris Candido. I got him down in Memphis with Lawler, and Cornette didn't even want to be bothered. I used to send tapes down, and one time I had a double shot, and I booked Cornette on the show, and he says, who am I managing? I said, Chris Candido. And he said, I knew you were going to do that. And after that, Jimmy fell in love with him, took him right back to Smoky Mountain with him, and the rest is history. It's just unfortunate that the thing with Chris Candido, and I'll tell him to his fucking face, it's the old situation is, I haven't talked to him in years. I ran into him in a restaurant about a year and a half ago for 15 minutes, and he hasn't called me one time in like 4 to 5 years. So it's the old, what can you do for me today? I'm really disappointed how our relationship had won, because he used to actually call me Dad. It was funny, and I loved Tammy, and I loved him, and they were my two favorite people that had pushed more than anybody ever in the wrestling business. Him, not her, but him, and just I feel like he's totally disrespected me and dissed me over the past 4 or 5 years.
Tommy Gilbert.
Tommy Gilbert's a Gilbert. I love Tommy. He's a real strong person. He's a good person. Like, if you ever have a problem and you got something on your mind and you don't know how to handle it or you want to deal with it, you call Tommy Gilbert, because he's like the old sage. He makes you feel good, and gives you alternatives to help you. He's just a great guy. I love Tommy Gilder.
One of your guys who helped you out on the side for a long time, Paul Adams.
Jeez. All right, what happened was, I brought him down here to work for me, and he didn't have a place to stay, and we were doing a lot of shows, and he was real hot. Paul Adams is a genius, but in my opinion, he's a fucking drunk, and he got hooked up with Ed the Razor Seal. He was another shit stain on the wrestling business. He was living in Ed the Razor's house, and Ed the Razor had him turn on him, and then he just stopped doing shit for me and turned into a real fucking asswipe. And I think if I still see him to this day, I'll hit him over the fucking head with a bat. Drunk.
Another one of your.
Also, I think he's a card-carrying member of the Burt Prentice Club. You know what I mean?
Let's bring up Burt Prentice while you're at it.
Met Burt one or two times in my entire life. He's Burt Prentice is Burt Prentice. I can't say nothing about him because I never really had any interaction with him. Other one time he was trying to fuck Ricky O up in North Jersey, and Ricky O was like the son to me, so I had to go intervene and kind of like let Burt know that his options were very fucking limited.
Donnie B.
Donnie B's like, I love Donnie B because he reminds me so much of my son. Like him and my son Mark are the two biggest hate mongers. If they got a hard on for you, forget about it. And him and Mark just, I get a kick out of them. Like two little kids, they pull ribs on everybody. Donnie's creative. The thing about Donnie, which people don't realize this, is that he's so versatile. He can manage, he can book, and he can wrestle. He's a great wrestler too. And Donnie's a lot of fun to be around with. Sometimes he's radical and, does shit that you wonder why the hell he did it, and he probably wonders why he did it. But he's just, he's a good friend of the family, and we always liked Donnie. And I protected him as much as I could while I was with NWA. They always wanted to get rid of him, and I wanted to keep him. And because one thing about him, like you look at him, you don't think much, but he'll fight for you. Like I had him in the locker room. Like I had guys fuck with me before, like J.R. Ryder, another fucking goof. He was fucking me one time, and I sicked Donnie on him, and he just fucking backed down. And Donnie will fight anybody. It's the thing about him, and he's just a good guy to watch your back too. I think that the problem with him not going anywhere right now is he's just got a couple things to straighten out, with his attitude and stuff,
One of your referees you used for years, Mike Keener.
Mike Keener is the greatest fucking guy. If you have a list of great guys in the wrestling business, you put like Jim Kentner there, and Blaine DeSantis, and Mike Keener is the most incredible guy in the world. I love Mike Keener. He's a great guy. It was like one of the saddest days ever in wrestling when he was leaving. Mike Keener is a gem.
One of the guys that you had the vision to know where he'd move on, Steve Corino.
Yeah, it was so funny because I could sit here for 2 hours and tell Steve Corino's story. Steve Corino's like the best. He's another guy that don't call me anymore. Corino, you asshole. I know you're going to see this, and you don't have to fucking call me because I told you would never call me anyway, so I'm not disappointed. You're a dick for not calling me, but, busy.